Hello everybody, it's Tarun. Welcome to your 12th tutorial in the CSS for presentation course. In this tutorial, I'll start with unit 4, which is thinking inside the box. Okay, in the first unit, which is CSS orientation, I introduced the box model as one of the fundamental concepts of CSS. And according to the box model, every element in a document generates a box to which properties such as width, height, padding, borders and margins can be applied. And you probably have a feel for how element boxes work, from adding backgrounds to elements, etc. And this unit will cover all the box related properties. And once we'll cover the basics, we'll be ready to move boxes around in the coming unit, which is floating and positioning. So first of all, I'll tell you what I'll cover in this unit before going to the first topic in this unit. I'll cover components of an element box, setting the box dimensions, adding padding around content, adding borders, adding margins, and adding a drop shadow, etc. Okay, so we'll begin with an overview of the components of an element box and then take on the box properties from the inside out, okay, which is content dimensions, padding, borders and margins. So let's start with the element box first. As we have seen, every element in a document, both block level and inline, generates a rectangular element box. So I'll just show you one figure to describe the components of an element box. Okay, the content area is at the core of the element box in the content itself. Okay, in the figure, the content area, as I told you, is indicated by text in a white box. Then we have inner edges. The edges of the content area referred to as the inner edges of the element box. Although the inner edges are made distinct by a color change, okay, but in real pages the edge of the content area would be invisible. Then the next is padding. The padding is the area held between the content area and an optional border, and in the diagram the padding area is indicated by a yellow orange color, okay, and the padding is optional. Then we have border. The border is a line or a styled line that surrounds the element and its padding, and these are also optional. Then we have margin. The margin is an optional amount of space added on the outside of the border. In the diagram, the margin is indicated with light blue shading, but in reality margins are always transparent and allowing the background of the parent element to show through. Then we have outer edge. The outside edges of the margin area make up the outer edges of the element box. This is the total area element takes up on the page, and it includes width and width of the content area plus a total number of padding, border and margins applied to the element. The outer edge in the diagram is indicated with the dotted line, but in the real web pages the edge of the margin is invisible. Okay, so all elements have these box components. However, as you'll see, some properties behave differently based on whether the element is block or inline, and in fact we'll see some of those differences right away as we look at the box dimensions. So now we'll specify the box dimensions. By default, the width and height of a block element is calculated automatically by the browser, okay, and therefore it is the default auto value. It will be as wide as the browser window or other containing block element and as tall as necessary to fit the content. However, you can use the width and height properties to make the content area of an element of a specific width or a height. Okay, but unfortunately setting box dimension is not as simple as just dropping those properties in your style sheet. You have to know exactly which part of the element box you are sizing. Okay, CSS3 provides two ways of specifying the size of an element. the default method which is introduced in the CSS1 itself. It applies the width and height values to the content box. That means that the resulting size of the element will be the dimensions you specify plus the amount of padding and borders that have been added to the element. The other method is there which was introduced as part of the new box sizing property in CSS3. Okay. Box sizing, this is the property name, which applies the width and height values to the border box, which includes the content, padding and border. And with this method, the resulting visible element box, including padding and borders, will be exactly the dimension you specify. Some find this a more intuitive method for sizing, and we are going to get familiar with both methods in this section. And one more thing is there, regardless of the method that you choose, you can only specify the width and height for block level elements and non-text inline elements such as images. The width and height properties do not apply to inline text, which inline text element, and will be ignored by the browser. And in other words, you can not specify the width and height of an anchor, or a strong element. So I'll just show you the values for the box sizing property. Okay, the values are content box and border box, and I'll also show you the values for height and width properties. Okay, for width you have length measurement, percentage, auto and inherits also, and it is applied to block level elements and replaced inline elements. But as you can see here, the box sizing can be applied to all elements, and the height have value same as the width, and it can also be applied only to block level elements and replaced inline elements. Okay, so now let's size our content box, which is by default. And by default, the width and height properties are applied to the content box. That is the way all current browsers interpret width and height values. But you can explicitly specify their behavior by setting box sizing. Okay, let me just show you what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm trying to say that you can use this property like this. One space is here, and I'm going to show you one example. In this example, a simple box is given a width of 500 pixels. So first of all, I'll just show you the example, what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I'll just show you in the HTML file only. Okay, here I have given background some color for the paragraph, then some width of 500 pixels, and then height of 150 pixel, and 20 pixel of padding with a 2 pixel border and 20 pixel margin all around. And using this content box model, the width and height values are applied to the content area only. So I'll just save it and show you how does it look in the browser now. Okay, so now you can see that it has created a 500 pixel by 150 pixel. 500 is the width and 150 is the height box, which has green color inside it because of the background, and it has a padding of 20 pixels and a border which is 2 pixel solid gray. Okay, and you can see the resulting width of the visible element box ends up being 44 pixels. Okay, the content plus 40 pixel padding and 4 pixels of border. So 2 pixel here, 2 pixel here, 20 pixel padding here and 20 pixel padding here, and 500 pixels of the content. And when you throw 40 pixels of margin, the width of the entire element box gets to 584 pixels. and knowing the resulting size of your element is critical to getting layouts to behave predictably. Okay. So now let's see the border box model. The other way to specify the size of an element is to apply width and height dimensions to the entire visible box, including the padding and border. Because this is not the default browser behavior, you will need to explicitly set box sizing. Okay, here equal to border box. Okay. Now let's look at the same paragraph we saw in the previous section and see what happens if when we make it 500 pixels using the border box method. So I'll just change something with the border box property. Okay, so just a second. So let's just save it and run it in the browser. Okay, so you can notice that you need to provide, okay, I'll just show you, WebKit and Moz vendor prefixes. Okay, WebKit and Moz, these are the vendor prefixes to get this work in Safari, Chrome and Firefox. Okay, so many developers find the border box model to be a more intuitive way to size elements, and it is particularly helpful for specifying widths in percentages, which is the cornerstone of responsive design. For example, you can make two columns 50% wide and know that they'll fit next to one another without having to mess around with the adding calculated padding and border width to the mix. Okay, so now let's move forward to the next topic, which is specifying height. In general practice, it is less common to specify the height of elements. It is more in keeping with the nature of the medium to allow the height to be calculated automatically, and it allows the element box to change based on the font size, user settings and other factors. And if you do specify a height for an element containing text, be sure to also consider what happens if the content do not fit. And fortunately, CSS gives you some options, and we'll see them in the coming section. So first topic here is handling the overflow. When an element is set to a size that is too small for its content, it is possible to specify what to do with the content that does not fit, which you can do with the overflow property. So I'll just show you the property and its values now. Okay, the property is overflow. The values are visible, hidden, scroll, auto, inherit. The default value is visible and it applies to block level elements and replaced inline elements such as images only. Okay, I'll just show you one figure which will demonstrate the predefined values for overflow. Values to a 150 pixel square. Okay, so I'll just explain you all the 5 properties one by one. The first value you see here is for visible. The default value is visible, which allows the content to hang out over the element box so that it can all be seen. The second one here is hidden. When overflow is set to hidden, the content that does not fit gets clipped off and does not appear beyond the edges of the element's content area. The third one is scroll. When scroll is specified, scroll bars are added to the element box to let users scroll through the content. Be aware that when you set the value to scroll, the scroll bars will always be there even if the content fits in the specified height just fine. Then we have auto. The auto values allows the browser to decide how to handle overflow. In most cases, scroll bars are added only when the content does not fit and they are needed. So this was all about the handling of overflow, and this was all about in the thinking inside the box in this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'll continue with this unit only, and I'll continue with the topic padding. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.